Hey guys, good morning. How is everybody? You guys are doing good? You get you get beautiful video this morning. I didn't do it last week. I'm doing it this week. My goofy setup here, which will go back to normal in the coming weeks, but yeah, for now it is the way it is. Hope you all are doing all right this morning. Come alive. Good morning, sir. Rick Bowser and Verum Venomous, I saw both y'all in there. Good morning. Good to have you guys with us. Go ahead and Laura Masood, good morning. Good morning. Good to see you. Put up the topics, which right now are quite few, but I'm hoping you guys will add. Let's see here. Oh, no, having a problem with spacing here, but anyway, there's our topics so far. Rick Bowser, how did you know that? You don't know that. Stop ratting me out. Maybe at the beach or not. Stacia, Emmy, good morning. Thank you, Stacia, for liking my hat. I like it too. I just got it yesterday. Yes. I may be a few shades darker than the last time y'all saw me too because of my tan. uh, I tend to tan really well, and it's frightening actually. Okay. And it's strange too because I'm very European in ethnicity. I don't know why I tan so well. Um, yeah, I'm like English Scottish. Strange. Good morning, Katie Turner and Mom. It's good to have you too this morning. And Terry Barnes, it's good to see you. Thank you for joining. Hope everybody's doing great. So yeah, topics. Go ahead, guys, and throw them on. If we don't have many topics, I have this topic I put on here of Marco Polo in Tartaria. And I've been reading a very interesting book on my trip here. And I ran across some amazing information in this book. And so I was going to share that with you guys if if we don't get other topics. I definitely have some material there we can go over that I know will interest some of you. And so we can do that. But please go ahead and get your topics in the chat so that we can get those going too. Stacia, you say you tan good, but your mom is Greek. That's interesting. Well, I've seen I've seen plenty of Greek people, and I think most of them tan pretty well. Of course, that being from Greece and the islands of Crete and all that kind of, I think they were historically fishermen, and so that makes sense to me. That makes sense to me. I've seen some pretty tan Greeks. Come alive, you say you're Scottish, but who knows? Well, let me just tell you guys, definitely don't get your DNA tested for your heritage. Do not go to 23andMe or any of those DNA tests. Please do not do that. They will use your DNA for reasons and purposes you do not want them to. Northbound Believer, good morning to you. It's good to have you this morning. And in fact, I think I've heard from some of the results of those DNA tests for heritage that they actually are very inaccurate too. They're not correct. And so they'll tell you all sorts of things in the report on your different heritages that are just wrong. So, for what it's worth, no one's ever taken my DNA. Come alive, the government already has your DNA, not by your choice either. I get it. Katie Turner, you ask, what did they do with your DNA? Well, there's lots of speculation. I mean, how do you know what they'll do with it? How do you know? Did I don't know how to trust those companies. Some of them are owned by very shady people, and so what will they do with your DNA? Will they encode it, put it in a computer, and send it off to someone to do something else with it? Are they trying to use it for their bioweapon engineering in countries like Ukraine and China? Maybe, possibly. So I just won't do it. Stacia, you say you're Norwegian and Greek. That makes sense. Stacia, that makes sense. Squiffy Bear, good morning to you. It's so good to see you. I don't think I had you for a few weeks, or I hadn't seen you, so I'm glad you're there. Hope you're doing well. Very good to see you. Yeah, Stacia, you say Katie, you say cloning and bioweapons. Yeah, it's uh, what good could come out of them having your DNA? What good could come out of it? I don't know. I don't see much good there. Rafa Sieber, good to have you, sir. Good to see you in there. All right. Well, guys, go ahead, please, and mention any topics you're interested in discussing. It could be, things you're studying yourself, just, you know, stuff you've run across in your reading of the scriptures, or thoughts you've had, things you've discussed with friends lately. Um, like me with this Marco Polo book. That's an amazing topic that I'm learning about, and I would love to share some of that with you guys. And Laura Masood, you put a topic on here now. We've got how to share true faith with Catholics. Whoa, that's a tough one. I like it. Let's talk about that. I like that a lot. All right, yeah, that's good. Here, get my fonts fixed. There we go. All right. Now we've got it. Yeah, that's a good one, Laura. Thank you. Laura, I can always count on you. You always do good topics. Thank you for that. Rick Bowser, you say you like the Marco Polo topic. Yeah, it's incredible. I'm just telling you, the Marco Polo thing is incredible. Laura, you say you're English and Scottish too, married to Lebanese, thus the name. Ah, very interesting. Very cool. Come alive. When is it good to put your faith in medical doctors? Oh, come alive. I know I know what you're thinking there. I know why you're asking. Hmm. It's a good topic. Ooh, that's probably a little bit controversial, but yeah, we can do that. Do that. Come alive. And then Rafa, you said Sabbath versus Sunday. What is the first and second resurrections? Okay, that's a couple topics, so let me put those on there. Rafa, Zebra. And the other one is what is the first and second resurrection? Difference between the first and second resurrection. Yep, that's good. That's good topics stuff. See, we're getting a lot now. We're getting there. Uh, Katie Turner and Stacia, you say my son was asking about Shakespeare. Is there anything aside from the BS they tell us? Katie, you said you, you think Shakespeare was Francis Bacon. Yeah, yeah, that's a possibility. Let's put that on the topic list. I think that's a cool topic. I don't know that I have a ton of information to give you other than probably what you guys have read. You know, the hearsay about Francis Bacon and all that. I haven't really studied it very deeply, but I will attribute that to you, Stacia. Was Francis Bacon Shakespeare? I don't know if I spelled Shakespeare right, but maybe. um, as far as Shakespeare, I'll just mention this because I don't think I can do that topic today. I don't have a ton of information. What I have heard is the same as what you guys are talking about, that Shakespeare, for one, no one can pinpoint the actual man in history. Uh, so yeah, there's apparently the home of Shakespeare over in Europe where you can go visit where he was supposed to have lived. And there's a lot of speculation, like question and silly weirdness about that place too. It's not there's no real proof that Shakespeare lived in that place or that there was a man that was real named Shakespeare. And so when I think that the comparisons people make between the writings of Francis Bacon and Shakespeare, they make these comparisons and they're like, it looks similar. He writes similarly. And then the topics of Shakespeare's writing, by the way, are really deep, esoteric topics, some of them. And I'm not going to remember all the names of the plays, but there's some really deep undercurrents in those topics. And so when you think about who Francis Bacon was as a Freemason and an esoterist, it makes sense. Some of those topics, those deep topics, uh, that it could have been Francis Bacon and was likely Francis Bacon. So I am kind of leaning on that side as far as my thoughts. Lindsay Ball, I see you joined. Good morning, ma'am. It's good to have you. And you mentioned Stratford on Avon. Yes, yes, the place where he's supposed to have lived. So, Lindsay, what is your do you have a perspective? Do you feel like Shakespeare is Francis Bacon, or do you feel differently? Out of curiosity, and I will get your other topic, Lindsay, while you're responding there. Nazarite vow being stopped in the temple. Difference between Nazarene and Nazarite. Yeah, that's related to my stuff I did. I think like last week or something. We talked about that, or I can't remember. So let me get that on the topic list. Lindsay Ball, Ball, Nazarene, or right. Wow. And Lindsay, by the way, on your that topic there about the Nazarene versus Nazarite in that section of scripture, I feel like it's not specific. So it says a vow, and I just really was thinking in terms of vows. The Nazarite vow comes to mind, and that perhaps whatever vow it was, if it was Nazarite, I wouldn't know, but whatever vow it was perhaps had the same kind of restrictions, like you cut your hair a certain way to symbolize the vow, right? To show that you had taken that vow. So I don't know that he was a Nazarite, um, particularly, but it's possible. It's something I probably need to study more, Lindsay. All right. Well, let's see here. Let me pull the topics back up and let's figure out how we're going to start here today, and which we're going to go to first. I think I may just leave Francis Bacon being Shakespeare for now. Stacia, I'll leave that one for next time or sometime in the future so that I can study that a little before we come back together on it. Uh, Laura Masood would definitely do your sharing faith with Catholics. Come alive. I'd like to do your medical doctors. Uh, Rafa Sieber, you gave me two difficult ones. You gave me two difficult ones. And so then Lindsay Ball, yours is going to be tough for me too. I just kind of addressed that. So let's see here. I think Rafa may go ahead and do your first and second resurrections topic. And we kind of discussed Shakespeare, the Nazarite vow, and then I'm gonna bump mine up. I want to do it, and I think, like Rick, you mentioned that would be interesting to you as well. I think it'll be interesting to a few of us. I'll try to get to my Marco Polo topic, at least to introduce it, because I'm in the process of reading that book, and I'm, not even a third of the way through, and I'm already finding this, incredible information about Tartaria, the king of Tartar, all these different things. Anyway, um, so maybe this is our list of four at the top, and we'll go ahead and get started with Laura Masood's topic first on how to share true faith with Catholics. So let's see here. Again, trying to manage my windows and stuff so that this all makes sense. I think as far as this, I won't need to bring any windows up. We'll just talk about sharing your faith with Catholics. So you guys feel free to go ahead and post in the chat anything you feel about the topic of sharing with Catholics. Like, because I'm not a Catholic, now I have been exposed quite a bit to the Catholic religion. I had a friend a while back where I actually visited his Catholic church services with him. Uh, and it was interesting because he ended up becoming a Christian, born again type Christian, while I knew him. Very interesting, hand of God type thing. But he'd always grown up in the Catholic Church and just kind of, it was a practice. He definitely believed in God and wanted to do good. I mean, he was a good person, right? It was just, by the grace of God, got in touch with a youth minister that spoke to him, and he realized his need to acknowledge Christ in a different way and acknowledge what Jesus had done and accept him as the Son of God, and then confess that, and turn from sin. Well, he was already a good person, so that was easy for him. But I'm just saying, yeah, it was interesting that I had that experience with him as a Catholic. But I think most Catholics are kind of that way. I don't know any Catholics that are super. How do I say this right? I don't know any Catholics that are super devout religious people. Like, most of the Catholics I know are church attenders, and then outside of church, they have a very kind of, I don't know how to say it, but maybe blasé attitude towards ethics and morals, and not a very serious level of involvement with their religion. And that's just the ones I've come into contact with. If you guys have had different experiences with Catholics, I know some of you may have been Catholic in the past, so that's very relevant. And so, Verum, I think you're responding to what I'm saying and saying, oh boy, you do know some very devout Catholics. So, see, I don't have reference, I don't have information about people that are like that. Um, Laura, you say that if they pray to Mary and the Rosary, right? I think on that idea, that concept of praying to Mary and using the Rosary, like I would ask that person, like, where did you get that practice? And I think I would really focus on, are you doing things that a bishop has told you, or are you doing things that are in the Bible that God has essentially laid out as practices, that Jesus Christ himself. I would try to reinforce a person's belief in Jesus Christ, because most Catholics do believe in Christ, of course, but then they have this other baggage that goes along with it, and essentially it lessens their interest and focus on Christ, and increases their interest and focus on the bishops, the saints, and Mary, right? Which is very odd. I mean, thinking about that, it does feel pagan. It feels more pagan than anything. Instead of emphasizing the Father and his Son, they emphasize Mary and the saints. It's just very strange. And you could say, how do we interpret that? I mean, is it that from the back, the Catholic Church, which I believe is somewhat true, from a fundamental level, has been infiltrated by Satan, and that they at the top levels know that it's pagan and they push it, and that Mary is Lilith and the saints are the gods, the angels, and that they push it knowing that, the leadership knowing that, but pushing it down because they want to convert the world to a dark outcome. That's possible. I'm not saying that's 100% true, but it's possible. I mean, my feeling is that it's very corrupt in the Catholic Church at the top level. And so, yeah, Lindsay Ball, you're saying it's Gnostic with the female in heaven. Yeah, to worship Mary is very odd and very strange and very unorthodox as far as the early church was concerned. They just didn't consider Mary. I mean, it was definitely a virgin birth that they believed in, and that was a fulfillment of the Old Testament. But the early church never emphasized Mary as anything other than a humble servant that obeyed God and essentially was the carrier of the Son of God, and there was no other specialness to her other than she was selected, chosen, and humble before Him. So, yeah, I think that's a good place to focus if you're talking to people. It's like maybe trying to get them to focus on where their practices come from. Why is Mary so important? Where in the Bible can they show you that Mary should be worshiped or prayed to? And the reality is they won't be able to do that. And so they'll be forced to think about it. I think that's sometimes the best we can do. But that's where I would focus, is kind of that. Are you doing things that are in the Bible that are actually taught by the apostles or Christ or God? Or are you doing stuff that your bishop told you to do? And so, do you believe in God, or do you believe in the organization of the Catholic Church and the bishops? Which I think is the problem, is the real problem, right? Putting men between you and God, putting men between you and Christ, and believing them over what we have from the earliest times. So, Lindsay Ball, you say they literally won't listen because they say the early church followed it. Yeah, well, that's a big fat lie too, isn't it? They say that Peter was the first pope, right? Even though the Catholic Church didn't exist, they say Peter was the first pope. It's crazy. It's a little, you know, it's a little crazy, but I guess like you're saying, that I just haven't met them, but there are people that are that, staunch about the Catholic Church. I guess so. Makes sense, I guess. They say Mary was born of a virgin to avoid the original sin of Mary. Right. Well, we know about original sin, right? It's not, for one, past, there's no thing. It's not through the woman either. It's not through the man either. There's no original sin. I mean, you're a human, you're a human. That's the curse. You're in flesh. Tomcat, welcome. Good morning to you. You say it's like they think if Jesus is God, then Mary is higher than God because she gave birth to God. Yes, I've heard that said before too. I've heard that said before. But that again, it's a concept that's not enforced in scripture anywhere. It's just something that came up with out of their head, and it seems like the church pushes those ideas for some kind of ulterior motive. Some ulterior motive. And we can only assume that's a bad motive, right? Lindsay Ball, you say you argue online with Catholics a lot. Very interesting. Yeah, you probably have more background at this than I do. Laura, you say they think they are the one true faith. Everyone else is apostate. Wow. Yeah. Interesting. I just wish that, I mean, Lindsay, and when you discuss these things, do you ever take them to scripture and say, like, show me that in scripture? What do? They just say, it doesn't matter. I still believe it. I don't I don't understand that mindset, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That's a hard one. Laura, you say they don't read the Bible ever. That's the problem. Like, Laura, I mean, can it seems to me like at some point they need to wrestle with the fact that they're just believing the sayings of men over anything that was written originally, or the most ancient forms of the church. They they they're not they don't have a foundation for their faith other than asking the bishop what it is. Now, that's just ridiculous, right? Aaron Morgan, good morning. See you're online. It's good to have you. Uh, Good to have you this morning. But yeah, it's very confusing to me. I guess I'm just so connected to my faith and to what I believe, and I've worked so hard at it, that when I see people that just take the word of a bishop or a priest you know, as gospel and just believe it blindly, that to me is just, I can't deal with that anymore. I guess it's so far in my past that I was even like that. It's hard for me to think that way anymore. I don't know. It's not easy. Not easy. Yeah, y'all are posting a lot. Let me catch up here a little bit. Rafa, you say the Catholics use a lot. The first miracle of Jesus under the instruction of Mary converted water to wine, even though he told her, "What do you want, woman? It's still not my time." That's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, so they would say because of the changing of water into wine at the Cana wedding at Cana, because Mary said something to him about it and kind of, quote, instructed him, maybe suggested that he do it, that it was her again asserting her authority over Jesus Christ. Even though, like you said, he rebuked her. He rebuked Mary. He's like, "What do you want with me, woman? It's not time yet." He's like, "I know what I'm supposed to do, and I know when I'm supposed to do it. You just wait." I mean, that to me is priceless. Oh, goodness. Yeah, Laura, they are told that just the priest, he's the only one that can interpret the Bible correctly. Yeah. Verum Venomous, you say my kids' grandparents read scripture and pray more than most. You guys are making a lot of generalized statements. Interesting. So, Verum, you say there are people in the Catholic Church, not all, who have a heart to serve God, and I think they are doing so from a pure heart. Yes, that's true. That's definitely true. And, I had the same thing happen in a conversation recently with a Jewish lady. And it was amazing conversation, but she was almost in tears because she knew she was hearing all these things from people around her on this online forum about that, there's a lot of problems in the world because of the Jews, and Jews ruling Hollywood and Jews in power control centers and all this other stuff. And she's like, she was a Jewish lady herself, and was like, I know all these Jewish people in my life and my family, and they're all good people. They don't do those things, right? And so that idea that there's good people that are just confused and blinded by the religion they're in is true. There are. You know, we can only hope and pray for those people that God will open their eyes to see their need for something a little better, something better where, yes, they are good people, but they're also buying into and following a doctrine of men instead of going straight to the source, straight to God, and having that relationship between just them and God and just them and Christ. To me, that's priceless. And that's where we get to the heart of the matter. Are you really searching for that? Or are you still going to be, at the end of your life, saying to God, well, I trusted these other men for my relationship to you, other people. The thing that's funny about that to me is every person, including myself and you guys, we are all the same in our ability to find things out, our ability to want to get closer to God, our ability to recognize that either we are doing the work to discover for ourselves or we're just trusting in some other person who's the same as us to tell us what to do, giving over our sovereignty over our own lives to someone else to decide for us what we should do. Um, it's partly cultural because in our culture, we're taught not to work very hard. We're taught not to discover for ourselves. We're taught not to ask questions. And so we grow up in this society thinking that, the more you question those things, you're bad. You're bad for doing that. You shouldn't question. And it's been that way for so long. A lot of these people, especially in the older generations, they just don't understand that they can't trust all of that. They can't trust the system to give them the answers that are true. And so it's like that with some Catholics. It's like that with some Jews. They're not bad people. They're not doing bad things. They're stuck in a system that keeps them blind. And I wish I had, I wish I understood whether, how God will treat that in the end. I don't know the answer to that. I think in every way possible, we need to try to reach out to these people that are stuck in those kinds of systems and say, why are you trusting a man for your salvation over God himself? Why don't you go to God? Why don't you have the relationship? And then kick these other men, other people, men, women, whatever, to the side who are telling you how to think and what to believe. So I think you're right, Verum. There are people in the Catholic Church with a pure heart. But in the end, I do think there's going to be some kind of, as far as when we get to God, when we go up there or after death, there will be some point we have to answer for why we did what we did, what decisions we made. There's this concept that I think is 100% true of, having a life review where God is showing you what you did and you're, coming to terms with how you lived your life before Him. I think that's real. I think that happens. So I think it is important for us to go and talk to these people as much as we can and try to share with them that it's about you and God. It's not about you and a bishop or you and a pastor or you and this guy and God. It's not like that. And if you usurp your power and authority over your own decision-making ability, then that's bad for you in the end, I think. It's not good. That's occurring and you don't do anything about it, I think that's a bad thing. So, anyway, and y'all are going to town in the chat, and I can't keep up now, so appreciate you guys. Laura, you say that most Catholics are probably not familiar with the Bible. They learn the teaching of the Catholic Church instead, yeah. Northbound, you said, I think there are different levels of devotion throughout. Just as with the Christian Church, I know some who do take the Catholic faith seriously and personally. Yeah, in fact, by the way, I meant to say this. I didn't say it yet. I know some Catholics, and there's many Catholics that believe in Jesus Christ and believe the same way you or I would, but they still, participate in the Catholic Church because they do think it's the quote universal church of God, and so they do that. And I don't think that God has a problem with them in the end. Now, I do think they're probably still a little blind to the organizational structure they're inside, but I don't think that's a problem before God. God just isn't concerned with that sidebar of that you're in the Catholic Church. It's about your heart and your belief and the way that you interact with God Himself. So there are good people, Christian people in the Catholic Church. and there's not a problem with that. There's good Christians in the Jewish faith, Messianic Christians, Messianic Jews in the Jewish faith. That's not a problem. If they have that understanding relationship with God and understand who his son is, that's what matters. So yeah, there are Christians, saved people in these organizations. Karen Morgan, you said devout Catholics say they follow the Bible and traditions of men. That tells you everything you need to know. More men know Bible. My family is still devout. They don't read the Bible. Good morning. Yes. Rafa, you say you come from a Catholic background. You know of really good-hearted people, very linked to religion and God, but also Mary. But most don't read the Bible. Fully dedicated to help poor people, but zero reading. Yes, not a lot of understanding there. Laura, you went to 2 different Catholic universities. One taught liberation theology, that Jesus was communist. Interesting. And the other, I was taught the miracles in the Bible were added to draw people. Okay. Well, they sort of were, but not really, right? He said himself he did the signs so that it validated who he was, that he was the Son of God, right? So that's really why. But maybe, a drawing, I don't know, that seems wrong. Northbound, you feel like religious traditions are taken more seriously in some countries as opposed to others, like America, where religion is systematically watered down constantly. And I think that, by the way, is intentional and pushed down from the top. I think that there's a concerted effort. And it actually, I think, is the Catholic Church started that and is pushing down through the Protestant denominations from, organizations like the Southern Baptist Convention. I believe that they are hand in hand and have been for decades now, and that they push those ideas of ecumenism down through the organizational church, down to the bottom, straight to the bottom. And of course, you get your Lifeway packets of teaching material in the mail. Most churches just buy we want the Middle America Church package from Lifeway. And they get all the teaching materials from Lifeway, which is the Southern Baptist Convention. And the Southern Baptist Convention is working hand in hand with the Pope, with the Catholic Church. It's documented fact. And so you have this big mess where the churches are watered down. And it is a conspiracy. It is intentional. And they don't want you thinking for yourself. They want you to be part of a system that can be controlled. Of course they do. Of course. And of course the leadership in the churches goes along with it because it benefits them. Pastors are benefited of this system where, there's a large swarm of people. The more people, the better, the more money. And, they can rely on it and use it to their advantage. They get nice, comfy homes and salaries and get to eat on the church's dime every day for lunch because I've seen it. The pastors intentionally take lunches with people and pay for it on the church's dime, on your tithe. And they do it every day and they eat lavishly. And that's why pastors get fat. And it's really sickening. So I'm spouting now. I'm getting really angry. So I don't want to keep going. Let me keep reading your comments, guys, and then we'll get on to the next topic probably in just a bit here. Rick Bowser, you're mentioning again the writings of E. Michael Jones, and you say it gives a good idea of the Catholic faith. He's a devout Catholic. I tried to post a link, but was blocked. Okay. Gotcha, Rick. Let me see if I can find that. Might be able to allow it. Yeah, I don't see it. Apparently they're blocking it in a place where I cannot see it, so I'm sorry about that, Rick. Lindsay Ball, you say they can't hear it as they believe in apostolic succession and only them saved. Yes. In fact, there's another denomination of Protestantism. Don't remember the name of it, but it reinforces that it is from the correct line of churches back to the first church in Rome under Peter, and it's just really strange. Verum Venomous, you say, to me, a Catholic woman who prays without ceasing, has a love for Jesus, is always working for the Lord, and is in a far better place than most American Protestants today. I understand that. I understand that sentiment. And it sounds like from what you're saying, that person I would describe as a born again Christian, like a real Christian. So I don't have a problem at all with that. That's again, I don't have a problem with anyone from any religion who is that, right? To me, that's great. Um, Lindsay, you say if they believe in purgatory, it undermines the cross. Yeah, purgatory is kind of a messed up doctrine. Chris G, you say righteous anger. Yeah, I got some of that. I've got a lot of that. I try not to let it out that much. I say it's righteous. I hope it's righteous. Rafa, you say, what is the religion closest to our beliefs? Are we Nazarenes? I heard a lot of Jews converting to Christianism, so keeping Sabbath and don't eat unclean foods, but now believe Jesus is the Messiah. Interesting. C. Jones, good morning, sir. You say, this is why I left ministry, commercialized. Excellent. Well, I think it probably was the right decision. That would be a personal decision, but yeah, I can understand it. I can understand that for sure. And I'm the same way. Like, I was in ministry. Um, I was refused the ability to become a deacon multiple times because I did not have a good tithing record because I had come to the conclusion tithing was wrong. And so I was not allowed to be in church leadership other than they did allow me apparently to teach their children, but not be a deacon, which is so funny to me. I still cannot believe that. I was a teacher in the church I used to go to for years, both to young people and then at one point some older, elderly people. I taught an elders class for a long time and then went back to the teenage group. So anyway, yeah, they wouldn't let me be a leader as a deacon, but I could, I couldn't make decisions about the money of the church, but I could teach their children anything I wanted. I could have you know, indoctrinated them. They didn't care about that. They only cared about my access to the finances of the church, right? And so they wouldn't let me because I hadn't put in enough investment into the church to earn the position to be on a board that talked about the finances of the church and the decisions of the church. It's ridiculous. It just doesn't make any sense. It's backwards. It's sickening. It's sickening. Oh gosh. All right. Got me going again. Darn it. I think that was you, Chris G and C Jones. You got me going. All right. All right. I think we're good on the topic of Catholicism, how to witness to a Catholic. Because I just don't have much more than that. That's me. That's my just blabbing. And I think you guys have got some experience there. So thank you for that in the comments, you guys, adding to that discussion. All right. Come alive. Now, your topic of should we put faith in medical doctors? Oh, man. Come alive, brother. I want to say before we start this discussion that I love you. And I, know that you've been going through something. And this is a question that's probably close to your heart right now. And I understand that. So please don't take anything I say in this segment about putting faith in medical doctors in a negative light, okay? Um, but I'm just going to have to, I guess, give my thoughts and we can discuss a little bit. You guys are welcome to post things you think in the chat. Now, just be aware this could get us banned. Some of the things I'll probably say, or at least like who knows what'll happen. I don't even know anymore with YouTube because they seem to make arbitrary decisions about what they like and don't like at any moment in time. I never can guess. So as far as medical doctors, like this is kind of like this was reminding me now thinking about it of Catholicism. You guys are like, oh, there's some good Catholics, Well, I think there's some great medical doctors that really care about people. They use what they know and have learned in their schooling to help people do their best and really care deeply about their patients. Now, most of us are probably coming at this topic from a westernized, Americanish. I think most of you guys on the chat are American, exception of a couple like Lindsay. But I think Lindsay in the UK, you have a similar medical system. The what is it? The HIS? Is that the? I can't remember the name of the health system there. But Anyway, we can all agree that there's some good doctors for sure in different fields, definitely want the best for their patients, but they're in a system. And I would say probably most doctors in their heart of hearts, they do want the best for their patients, but they're in a system that has rules. They're in a system that is controlled. Government is in the pocket of the system, what we call big pharma. All that's part of this system. And yes, Lindsay, the NHS in Europe. Uh, the system is very controlling, and so it's a system, for the doctors, and where they get their information is this conglomerate of the hospital they're in. They get directives from the hospital that they have to follow, and they, for the most part of their careers, they follow those directives verbatim. They just know, they assume that when it comes down from the director of the hospital, that in these cases of diagnoses, we're going to start doing these types of things. This is our protocols. That all can come from the hospital, and it can come from the CDC, which is a government agency in America, and I'm sure there's an equivalent over in Europe. And it can come from the AMA. Is it the AMA? Yeah, American Medical Association. All these different places, organizational control levers that give doctors answers. Because you know as well as I do, the doctors cannot literally like remember everything that they studied in school. They can't, general practitioners cannot know everything about everything. You know, you guys know as well as I do that in the present time, I can't even know the last time I went to a doctor where I didn't already know the diagnosis before he looked at me or, someone I was with. I already knew the diagnosis because I had gone online, done all the research. I knew it was one of a couple things. And in fact, the doctors now, there's so much information out there, they do the same kind of thing. So, and I see a couple of you mentioning that there's naturopathy and holistic doctors and healthcare, and I'm not talking about any of that yet. Okay, but the system we're in is so controlled that, for instance, during the pandemic, you saw doctors getting protocols that were from either the hospital or the AMA or the CDC, and they just accepted them blindly. They thought they were in the best interests of their patients without actually taking time to think about it, researching it. They just took it blindly and they used it with their patients, those protocols. And they were wrong. We found out the protocols were wrong. They were killing people instead of helping them. It was genocide. And so we found that out in the last few years, that the system is broken. The system is corrupt. Just like we talked about in the Catholic Church, it's like we talked about in Protestantism, the system, organizational system, is corrupt. And so this is another thing. I think it's just like, when are people going to wake up and realize that organization is, in general, a mechanism of control? And so it's not that every organization is bad, but organization breeds the ability for corruption to infiltrate. It's like setting up the levers of control at an organizational level, and then if someone corrupt gets in the middle of it, they then have control over the whole organization. And was it intentional? Probably. But we have to realize that in these huge organizations, especially government and medical, that it is that is exactly what has happened. And so I think Come Alive, the way I feel about it now is that you have to do the work. If you're going to involve yourself in the medical system, you have to do the work up front, and you have to be willing to go in and tell them, no, I don't agree with your diagnosis and I don't agree with your treatment. I'm going to do this. You have to have the information if you're going to go into that system and expect a good outcome, because their outcomes are not always in your best interests, and it's because the organizational level of that is corrupt. So you don't know whether the doctor is prescribing something because he knows it's good for you, or he's going by a protocol that is not good for you and is from the corrupt people at the top. it's hard to know now. And I mean, after the last few years, I don't even want to go into a medical facility anymore if I don't have to. And I think a lot of people are the same way now. Now, you say, come alive, I see your comment here. Dude had a tumor explode after first attempting to go holistic route. Doctors said it wouldn't have done that had he took chemotherapy. Many people have cancer at my hospital. Cancer is a big one. Um, you have to ask yourself, how come after decades of American Cancer Society existing, has there been no progress on real cures? We're still doing chemotherapy, and in the case of chemotherapy, my belief in that treatment is that it is a terrible treatment. Um, it, while it does have a slim possibility of actually affecting your outcome in a positive light, it's almost like scorched earth. It's almost like, let's put chemical poison into the body and see if the tumor dies before the patient dies. That's literally what I feel like chemotherapy is. And again, please don't take anything I'm saying as a negative. I know, there probably is 5 to 10 people here on this who've gone through chemotherapy, and I don't know what to say other than I'm never going to do chemotherapy. It's going to be my absolute last option of anything ever. I don't even understand why I would do it. I can't think of a scenario that would force me to do chemotherapy. Um, Chemotherapy in general has about a 50% positive outcome. That's like, to me, when I examined the flu vaccines, I kept seeing on the news, well, it's a 45% chance it could actually, help with the flu virus this year because, it changes every year, blah, blah, blah. 50% outcome, that's like, you could just instead say, well, I think drinking water is the cure to this problem, and then go do it. And you have a 50-50 chance of that actually working, right? So to me, chemotherapy is in the same camp. It's like, if it's 50-50, then that's not a good statistic. And the doctor won't tell you it's 50-50, right? They'll try to give you some other kind of statistic that'll make you feel better about it. But really, I just don't feel like that's a viable solution to the problem. Now, I think changing the chemistry of the body makes a lot more sense. Changing the chemistry of your internals, making it more acidic, more alkaline, um, that seems to be a much tighter, better way of trying to affect your outcome than a chemotherapy route. And I know there's every case, by the way, is super complex, and every case may be different than another. Whereas it could be you didn't find it till it was super advanced and it's all over your body. And then at that point, I don't know what to say. It may be hard to get a handle on it with some kind of natural treatment. But I'll tell you this, like, here's one thing I don't think people consider. Here's one thing I don't think people think about. And this is the way I think in my head. Like, if I was at the point of almost dead and I was going to die because of a tumor or something like that in my body, and someone put before me two options, either chemotherapy, or you could fast and starve your body for a few days or a week and do nothing but drink acid, like acidic product, like vitamin C and acid. If I had the two options, chemotherapy over here, where I know it's a 50-50 chance I'll die anyway, or over here, starve your body, cut off the food supply to the tumor, and drink acidic products or take acidic things into your body only for a solid week or two, then I would take that option. I would literally almost try to starve myself before I would go through chemotherapy to try to that route. Because starving yourself will starve the tumor. And of course, when the body is starved, by the way, if you guys don't know much about this, what do they call it? Going into ketosis or whatever it is, when your body is like literally so starved for food, it starts eating the things inside it, including tumors, including fat tissue, and then at some point muscle tissue. To me, it would be worth it to try that kind of route or alternatives. I know there's lots of alternatives for this type of thing. Cut off the supply of sugar, carbs, fats, creams, everything like that that causes inflammation in your body. I would go just scorched earth on a fast, a complete fast and acidic diet as long as it took. And I would, if I was, starving my body, I would just sit in the bed and I would wait it out and work on it until I thought my body could overcome that thing. If it was a tumor, I would get the surgery and then I would do that. I would not do chemotherapy. That's just me. Okay. By the way, full disclaimer, this is not medical advice, so you can't sue me. Okay. Full disclaimer. This is not medical advice. I am not a doctor. This is probably going to get banned by YouTube. It's probably going to get banned. I'm glad you guys can hear it though, and it's valuable to just have this conversation. So I'm not keeping up with your comments, guys, but come alive because you asked this. You mentioned your tumor has shrunk immensely, but I feel like total crap and no longer need $1 million surgery too. That is excellent news, brother. I'm just really happy that it's gone in a positive direction. I really am. See, that's what I think. Like, chemotherapy does seem to do stuff, but like you said, you feel like crap. Your body will have to recover a long time to build back up now. So I just don't know. In the end, all I can say is what I feel like with my life is going to happen. If I get in a situation where I feel like, where I find out that I have a tumor or something like that, then I'm probably going to go down a different path than chemotherapy. And I may die. And I really don't care. I would at least have given the finger to the industry and done it my way instead of trusting the system that is broken and corrupt to take care of me. I would instead trust God and say, God, I think the body you've given me is capable. I'm going to do my best with it and praise you, whatever the outcome is, praise you, Father, and I would go through it. I would go through it. And that would be at the derision of people in my family who do not agree with that at all. It would be a hard road. It would be hard on many levels, emotionally, with relationships. It would be very hard. Yeah, come alive. Your tumor was at stage 4. See, that's the kind of thing. It's like, I think every situation is different because of that. Like, when you find it, how big it is, what it's doing in your body, there's nuance to every decision. And so, brother, I don't hold anything against you for what you've done. I hope that it is truly going to be in the end something that keeps you with us for a good long while. Squiffy Bear, you mentioned the Gerson therapy. It's been very successful for many people. Okay, I'm not familiar with the name Gerson, but I will look that up. Stacia, you say, bingo, your body chemistry has been hijacked by the food industry. Agreed. Like, I mean, I was reading something the other day that was talking about, for instance, ground beef. Just ground beef, not to mention sausage and all that stuff, but just the horror of what we eat as far as ground beef. And I have this week, so it's not like I'm not part of this. But when they make ground beef, you do realize it's like thousands of cattle being all ground up, the meat being all ground up together. So that really the how would anyone know what the effects of that is? And in general, when you're on a farm and you take a cow and you process it, the ground meat you get from that is all from the same animal. It's very, but instead, when we go to the grocery store, we get a patty, a burger patty, get ground beef in a package. It could be meat from 20 different cows at once, from different corners of the nation, or even overseas, even like, South America or different places. How can that be good? It doesn't even sound good. Um, but if you buy local, you get meat that is all from the same animal. It's just a totally different thing physiologically, chemically for your body. It's more pure. So it's just crazy. It's hard to get your mind wrapped around what is going on and what we've been fed all our lives. I don't want to talk about pink slime, Stacia. I don't want to talk about that's disgusting. Not gonna do it. I can't do it. Mm, ink slime. I don't want to do it. Don't want to do it. You can get you can get ground beef that's grown from the DNA of your favorite celebrity. Did you know that? You can get celebrity steaks. I can't remember the website. I could bring it up on if I had my equipment with me. I don't have it. But yeah, there's this one website you can go and you can apparently order meat grown in a lab from the DNA of your choice of celebrity. Yeah. Celebrity meat on tap. That's disgusting. Mm. You guys are great. Verum, you're like, slime, yummy. Right. Stacia, you said that store eggs are approximately 100 days old. Oh, well, yeah. I will say that my dad's raising chickens, and I was with him not too long ago, and I ate some of his chicken's eggs, and I didn't notice a marked difference between them and store-bought eggs. I'm sure there is, but I mean, just from the taste, texture, all that, I didn't notice a very marked difference, but it is what it is. Oh, goodness. Laura Masood, you say, what has happened with our food, faith, and healthcare systems is a tragedy. Yes, it is. Well, we just kind of, over time, generationally, we've slowly given over control to these huge organizations, again, with the, I hate to say it, but with Jews at the top. Whether you like me saying that or not, I don't really care. I'm tired of dancing around it at this point, but they are super involved at the top. And you got testimonies from different people, Jews in the past, that say that that is what it is. And so I don't know a way to dance around it anymore. I'm tired of it. Grant Mooney, good to see you, brother. How are you? Oh my gosh, I'm so glad to see you, Grant. I hope you're doing good. You say Dr. Herbert Shelton wrote a good book on fasting where he had hundreds of documented cases of reversing tumors and cancer with extended fasting. That's what I'm talking about, bro. That's what I'm talking about. Once you understand that food, pharmacy, doctors, corrupt systems directed by the love of money and what will produce the most money for the owners, everything will start to make more sense. Yes, I agree. Come Alive, you say you feel like your tumor was caused by constant Bluetooth headphones that you wore. Yes, that to me is a probability. And if you're, you know, thinking that way, it's probably true. I know it. I know it, man. And I did that thing a while back on the 5G and different frequencies, and I talked about Bluetooth. I feel the same way about Bluetooth. I do not think it's a good frequency for us. Yeah. Northbound, you say in response to Rafa, of course, the problem isn't that they value the law per se, but Jesus himself said, "This is the work of God. You believe on him whom he has sent. The blood of Christ is sufficient." I think y'all are on a different thread than me right now. That's okay. Stacia, you say wheat grain was modified in the 50s to be mass produced, which now makes it complex and doesn't break down in the body. We have gluten intolerance. Yeah, Stacia, I saw a documentary recently on the wheat. What was that called? I saw this documentary. It was all about that exact topic, how they changed the wheat, genetically modified it for so many different things, especially like tolerance and bad climates and all this stuff, so that it would grow in these horrible climates. But it totally changed the wheat and the product of it to where it is not as consumable by our bodies. It can't be broken down. The gluten intolerances are occurring, and so yeah, that's part of it too. Squiffy, you say fasting fixed your SIBO. That is awesome. So I'm really glad to hear, Squiffy, that you've had good results doing something there with that problem. I hope that that is really taking care of it. I'm really excited to hear that. Really glad for you. Laura, you say my mother had cancer 50 years ago that spread through her body and was told imminent death, but she told God, not now, and it all went away. She died at 96. That's awesome. That's awesome. God wasn't finished with her. That's one thing that I think is important to realize too. If God's not done with you, it doesn't matter what you're going to do, what you do to your body. I mean, you could probably mess it up, but I'm just saying God has a plan for you and you're fulfilling that plan, I don't think he's going to let you get taken out. I don't think we should be stupid, but I just think that is a truth that God has a plan for you on this earth. And if you're fulfilling the plan that he has for you, working towards it, and then why would he let you leave the planet? Why would he let you leave and go to be with him if he has a plan for you here now? So that's another thing that I think is, like you said, Laura, about your mother. If you're in his will and doing his work, I think there's a possibility he may sustain you in that. You know, you're doing a good work on the earth for him. He has a value, there's a value you're providing to the kingdom. I don't think he's going to want to get rid of that. He's going to want to keep that come alive. That might be why you're having success with your treatments and you're going to, come back strong here, is what I feel. So, come alive, you mentioned here my cancer is undifferentiated carcinoma, meaning they can't identify what tissue it began in, yet it surfaced in your sinuses between where I'd wear Bluetooth headphones. Very interesting. Trinity 88, welcome this morning. I don't think I got to say good morning to you. It's good to see you. Sandra Farnick, good to see you. Good morning. Let's see. Yeah, if we start talking about cell phone frequencies, they're going to get mad and they'll ban me. So I think you guys know how I stand on that. In fact, on my Rumble channel, Bible Scribe on Rumble, I have that recording. If you want to see about the 5G and the Bluetooth and frequencies like that, Wi-Fi, I talk about all of that. I went ahead and took that live stream and I put that on Rumble, so it's there. I think you can search for Bible Scribe 5G or something like that on Rumble, and you can find it if you want to see it. But anyway, yeah, I agree with you guys on all that. Trinity 88, what do you mean, sorry, you will zip it? I don't want you to zip anything. Zip what? Don't zip. Oh, about the banning. Yeah, I don't think the comments will make a difference. I just mean if I talk about it. It's fine if y'all do. I'm sure that YouTube will just strike your comments if they don't like them, so feel free. So, oh, by the way, this is coffee, guys. I think this is like a tumbler. Like it was just in the place we're staying, so it's not. I'm not a lush. I'm not drinking whiskey or anything. This is coffee. Mm. It's getting cold too, so I probably shouldn't drink anymore. All right. Okay, let's see here. What have we got on the topics? Let's see. Let's go back to our topic list. Rafa Sieber, you mentioned the difference between the first and second resurrections, and then Marco Polo and Tartaria. That was me. Ugh. I can't do everything, guys. We're getting close on time. Well, we've got an hour, so I want to be sensitive here. I really want to do Marco Polo, Rafa. Don't be mad at me. I want to do my Marco Polo because I've been reading it. It's so interesting to me. I think it'll be interesting to you guys too. And we may not do the first and second resurrections today. By the way, first and second resurrections is something that I'm still looking at, trying to make sure I pinpoint it correctly and say it right. It's hard to pinpoint because there's no passage that says, hey, here's the first resurrection and here's the second. But we do have that thing in Revelation 20 that mentions the resurrection, right? And so it's a little bit of a complex issue, and I do want to give it time. I think actually it may take more than 30 minutes. So today I'm going to push that one, Rafa, and we're going to do Marco Polo real quick and then be done for the day. But I do want to do that. In fact, I want to do a real researched video on the first and second resurrections. So I really like that topic. It's just something that I haven't 100% ironed out. So I'm going to push that topic. We're going to do now Marco Polo in Tartaria. And I get to show you guys some of the stuff I've been reading. Oh my goodness. And I don't I don't have my book near me, so I can't grab it and show you, but let's go ahead and do this. So, Marco Polo. The book I've been reading is an old paperback, but it's of course it's the travels of Marco Polo. And it is literally an ancient writing. So this, it of course has been translated and retranslated. So let me get browser on the screen. I'll try to show you guys some of it. So let's see here. Marco Polo, the travels. I'm just going to show you the book on the screen so you can see. Try to show the one that I'm reading here. Penguin Classics. Yeah. Yeah, so this one on the screen here, this is the book I'm reading. Marco Polo, The Travels. The book literally was written in 1290 AD. So it's from the 13th century. 1290 AD was supposedly when it was written. Now, there are multiple copies of this ancient writing. Multiple copies. I did a little research on it. There's multiple copies of this writing that are not questionable. Like it's a real writing. Um, and so we have copies from almost the same time. There's a copy that they found and it was literally from 1350 or something. So very shortly after the thing was written, we have ancient copies of this writing. So this writing is very reliable as far as when it was written and who wrote it, and we know all that. Okay, it's very established. It's a very time worn writing, so it's reliable. So I started reading this thing. I think I got a copy at my local used bookstore, and started reading this thing over this trip that I'm on right now. And man, let me just tell you, it's incredible. So you can find this thing online to read if you don't want to buy a copy, but I like having a copy. I just bought mine for like a couple bucks or something. And I think you can also get this online at Amazon or wherever you want to get it. But let me see if I can go here to a couple of these the books. So let's see, the Travels of Marco Polo. Let me see which one of these is the right one. Bring it up on the screen for you guys. Get rid of some of these extra. There we go. And I can put these links in the description for you guys so you can get to these. Yeah, this is the one that I was looking. I mean, this is the copy of the exact book, um, Penguin Classics, just with a slightly different cover, but it's on the Internet Archive, so you can read this yourself. But you can see here the travels of Marco Polo. Here's the table of contents. The Middle East, the road to Cathay, Kublai Khan, Beijing to Bengal, Beijing, Qingzhou, China to India, India, Arabian Sea. This is okay. There's a guy that Marco Polo got to write this down for him after he did these travels. So in about 1290, this guy, I can't remember his name, but he wrote this down for Marco Polo after he did these travels. And Marco Polo and his whole family were explorers. So what we see here is this is a recounting of his travels. He goes through all these different towns and cities in the Far East, from Palestine to the east, so towards China and all those areas, and even north a little bit. A lot of travels in the Fertile Crescent area. Uh, and so he's going literally town by town and telling you all these different stories about the local histories of these towns, different things he's seen there, from like biology, like different animal types that he sees as he goes through these places. He talks about the different, plants and things sometimes that he sees. It's just an amazing read. Like every page, and I was telling someone else this last night as I was talking about it. Every page to me is riveting. I'm like, this is the one of the most incredible things I've read in recent time here. And so I'm just saying, if you want something that's like a movie but better because it's real, read this book. It's incredible. But the interesting thing about it, as my topic suggests, is the inclusion of Tartaria in this writing. In fact, this number 3 in the contents, Kublai Khan, he is the king of Tartar. This whole journey of Marco Polo's has to do with Tartar and the Tartars. It is Tartarian. So I don't know why I didn't know this, or why people online don't talk about this. But this whole book has interspersed throughout it information about the Tartars and this Khan of the Tartar nation. And yes, that he had control over much of the known world at that time, from Siberia down through many areas in China and in the Middle East, and apparently had gained control over many different territories and regions. And the Khan was the main ruler, and he kind of like the Roman kingdom. It sounded like he allowed these territories or cities to operate independently with different rulers, but if they ever got out of line, he would bring in the Tartar forces and knock them back into line or take it back over. And this is all through this writing. Now, the other interesting thing is, like I said, this whole writing is about Marco Polo going to Kublai Khan, traveling through his lands, and in the end, staying with Kublai Khan, the king of the Tartar nation, and spending time there, so much so that he learned the Tartar language, and that's recounted in this writing, and became so close to the Khan. The Khan told Marco Polo and his brother that he wanted them to go back to the Catholic Church, to the Pope, and bring back a group of teachers and bishops to teach his people the religion of Christianity, to teach them better. Because Kublai Khan says in the book to Marco Polo that he knew that Jesus was the Son of God, and he knew that he was the mightiest of all kings, and he wanted his nation to know that better. So there's all these different references in here to this story where Marco Polo is in front of the Khan of Tartar, and the Khan is telling him, I want you to go back and bring these teachers to teach my people about Christianity. And so, in fact, that is recounted, and Marco Polo and his brother do this, and the Pope doesn't send a bunch back. He sends a few back with Marco Polo, and they do bring them back to the Khan to teach the people of Tartar more about Christianity. But this is what's amazing to me, guys, and I'm not watching the comments very closely at all, so I bet you guys are commenting on this stuff. But what's interesting about this, guys, is that I don't see people online teaching about this writing. I don't understand it, why it's not mentioned, because it's all about the Tartar nation. And in the time frame of 1290, and well, actually his exploration and travels occurred from like 1260 something to 1275 or so. Why does no one online talk about this writing? I mean, could it be that Marco Polo describes the Tartars as vicious warriors and stuff like this, and does not describe it as this great, advanced civilization of the millennium that most people are touting it as? Because that, honestly, guys, I wanted you to hear this partially because according to this writing, the Tartars were not good necessarily. Like the Khan did know about Christ and wanted his people to be more Christian for whatever reason. But in general, Marco Polo describes the Tartars as vicious warriors who would come in and overtake areas and cities ruthlessly and control the whole area from, Palestine to China to Siberia. So it's just very interesting to me that this writing is speaking so much about these things and that so many people online don't talk about it. Like this Tartar, I'll show you, for instance. Let's go in here for instance. So you can search these writings, by the way, and I'll just put in the word Tartar because it doesn't say Tartaria, it doesn't say Tartarians, it says the Tartars and the king of Tartar. And we know that from the ancient maps we have from this very time period that Tartar was the word used for the kingdom. not always Tartaria. So it's just interesting. You see here as I search for Tartar, just the word Tartar. Now, the way this search works is you have to be very specific. So there will be a search for Tartar, and this yields 32 results in this book. If I search for Tartars, you'll see it's searching and it'll come up with many more results. Here we go. Slowly, slowly, slowly. Really slowly. There must be a lot. 89 results for Tartars. But it's just amazing to me that this is really ignored by many of the online people. So as I scroll down through here, let's see. See, like page 45 here. When the brothers had stayed a year, meaning Marco Polo and his brother, had stayed a year in Berk's land, war broke out between him and Heligu, the lord of the Tartars of the Levant. They marched against one another with all their forces and joined battle. The loss of life on both sides was terrible, but in the end, victory fell to Heligu. And because of this battle, no one could travel along the roads without being abducted, etc., 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 etc. And from Uruk, they crossed the river Tigris and for 17 days journeyed through a desert where they found no towns or villages, but only Tartars with their tents living off their beasts. So the Tartars were not this advanced civilization according to Marco Polo. They were simply a kingdom, a large kingdom, spawned in the north. It says in the writing, he says east northeast of China. So north of the Great Wall of China. Now, perhaps the Great Wall of China was built to keep the Tartars out of China, or the Mongols. The Mongols are mentioned as well as we saw here in one of these results. But the Mongols, right here, the Mongols and the Tartars and the Saracens, which are the Muslims, this is the way. These are the peoples that Marco Polo talks about over and over and over again. So I have to say, guys, like I'm blown away that this is here and that I don't hear people talking about it online. Okay. While they were living there, an envoy sent by Heligu, lord of the Levant, stopped off on his way to the great Khan of all the Tartars, whose name was Kubilai, and lived at the end of the earth in an east-northeasterly direction. And when the envoy saw Messer Nicolo and Messer Matteo, he was astonished because no Latins had ever been in that part of the world. Sirs, he said to the two brothers, if you will trust me, you will find it greatly conducive to your profit and honor. The two brothers said that they will readily trust him in any undertaking within their power. And the envoy replied, Sir, I can tell you the great lord of Tartars has never seen any Latins and is exceedingly eager to meet one. So this is the section of the text where they come before Kubilai Khan, the king of Tartar, and they talk about, and he talks with them about getting Christianity into his kingdom. He wants it. It's just really interesting, guys. And I just would encourage you, if you've gone online and watched hours and hours of these people talking about Tartaria and all of that, that you spend some time with this ancient writing that's real. It's not someone just making things up. And read about this kingdom of Tartar that's in the exact location from the maps we've seen, and what actually occurred in this time frame of 1260 to 1275 AD when Marco Polo and his brother were traveling through the kingdom of the Tartars. It's all over this book. I mean, it's just amazing to me. So that's really what I wanted to share. Just, it's so striking and amazing that this is just not talked about. Sandra Farragut Cook, you say, it's not mentioned, it's treated like a fairy tale here in the Mediterranean. It's interesting to learn this about Marco Polo. Yeah, it was to me too. I was shocked. I was like, oh my goodness. Lindsay Ball, you say not many are touting Tartaria as Christ's millennial kingdom. Most Tartaria channels are New Age, and my group has it in the title, but I say it is a psyop. Very interesting. Yeah, to me, that's what it kind of starting to feel like. If what I'm reading in Marco Polo is true about Tartar and the Tartar kingdom, then why would it be used online as this special super duper thing that gets, maybe is it trying to change people's thinking? Is it trying to distract them from something else, get them off the rails onto this Tartarian millennial kingdom thing. I don't know, but I'm just saying this is an ancient document, and it's literally saying the opposite of what many people online are saying. It's really cool. I just would encourage you. There's another story that is, here's a for instance, um, of the kind of stories that Marco Polo is able to tell in this book. It's just amazing. Now, this doesn't have to do with the Tartarians, but of course, many of these lands were Muslim, and it's the way he says Muslim is Saracen, Saracen, and he mentions this one ruler in a certain city of the land that was Muslim, and he wanted to grow an army of assassins that would do his bidding. So what he did was he built a huge castle with a huge walled garden behind it, massive. And the best of, fruit trees and vegetables and all this stuff was growing in this garden. His intent was to make this garden exactly like paradise, the Garden of Eden that was believed in by the Muslims, okay? And so he filled this garden with all these fruits and vegetables and other stuff, and he also would hire virgins and bring them in there and make them live in the garden, probably under duress, but but they were taken care of, right? So he had all these virgins that lived in the garden. Well, he made it just like the Muslim paradise, right? As a Muslim, we even know from modern times, they say if you die in battle or whatever in honor, you'll go to be with the virgins in paradise, right? So this ruler of this certain city in the Middle East, he built this huge garden, and what he would do is he would have his soldiers sneak out into the villages outside his castle and find the youngest and strongest men that he thought would be good assassins, and they would drug them, knock them out, make them unconscious, and they would bring them into this garden, which was built to be exactly like a Muslim paradise. And they would let them wake up in that garden, and they would think they were in the afterlife. They would think they were in the Muslim paradise. There were virgins, all, satisfying their every desire. There was all this fruit and all this stuff going on, in the garden, and it was just this weird psyop thing. So this ruler would do that, let these young men spend time in this garden of paradise that he had built. And then he would drug them again and then cause them to wake up inside his castle. And when they would wake up, he would say, "Yes, you have been in paradise, my son. If you want to go back, you have to do this assassination operation for me." And he would tell the young man, to get back to paradise, you must do this according to the Prophet Muhammad. And so they, of course, would keep eyes on these guys, but if they would then do the assassination that he wanted, he would then take them, drug them again, and put them back in paradise. And in this way, he built an army of assassins. Well, what Marco Polo says about this guy is that after a while, Kublai Khan, the king of Tartar, caught on to what this ruler was doing, this Saracen Muslim ruler was doing, and he decided to take his armies and besiege his castle and take him out. And it took him 3 years because the garden was so prolific. It was so big. They had food in there. They stayed in and locked themselves and barricaded themselves in. And this ruler stayed alive under siege for 3 years until Kublai Khan's forces actually got in and killed him for what he had been doing, assassinating people all over the place and doing this weird psyop thing on the young men of the kingdom. So it's just crazy. Like, you can't make this stuff up, guys. I mean, those were one of the most amazing stories that I've ever heard. I'm just like, it's just insanity. So this book, I'm just telling you guys, it's incredible. It's authentic. You should read this if you're interested in this stuff at all. I'm loving it. So anyway, I wanted to share all that, guys, with you. So you had that background. I think there's a lot going on out in the YouTube sphere here in Truther land that's very false. And this, to me, has opened my eyes a little bit, given me some more context for the actual time period that people are talking about, what the Tartar kingdom may have been. Seems like Marco Polo gives us a lot of good information about it. So if you're interested in that, I encourage you to find this book. I will post the link to what I've shown online so you can see it for yourself if you want to read it there, or if you wanted to go buy it. I would encourage you to do that. So anyway, um, that's my little segment on Marco Polo and the Tartarian kingdom. Because the whole book is him traveling through the Tartar kingdom. It's just crazy. I couldn't believe it when I started reading it. I'm like, why has no one ever told me this? Crazy. Anyway, guys, that's pretty much it. I see you guys making some comments. I think that y'all are on some different threads, but I hope you got a lot out of that. If there's anything else y'all want to mention before we go, I think that's about it for today. We've done a good session, about an hour and a half here. You guys are great. Been good topics. Thank you for bringing those topics. What did we do earlier? We did the Catholics. Yeah, the name of the book, Laura, is just Marco Polo: The Travels. I can bring that up again and show you the picture so you can see it right there on your screen now. Yeah, so that's it right there. Marco Polo: The Travels. Sometimes it's called The Travels of Marco Polo, and I think there's actually a couple versions of it. In fact, I have a link to two different versions of it online, but this one is kind of a classic edition of it, and it includes things from multiple manuscripts. So there were multiple manuscripts of this writing from way back in the day, and I would encourage you to. I think this is probably a good one. It seems to include, like you can see where it marks out. This is from the F manuscript or the V manuscript, so it includes a lot of stuff. I think I like it a lot, so I think it's a good one. I can't vouch for the other ones because I haven't read them, but Come Alive, you wish you could watch on your big screen TV. Well, why can't you? Oh, guess maybe you're not at home, right? So that's okay. We'll get back to normal. My live stream, by the way, will get back to normal in maybe a week or two here. So oh, I can't wait to get back to my normal equipment. So it's better. But last week was a train wreck. By the way, I apologize to you guys who were on the last week's live stream that I couldn't get my windows set up right, and I was blocking your view of the scriptures as we were reading them most of the time. I was just like all messed up. I watched that thing back. I was like, oh man. And that was all. We did those verses on women in the Bible and the different teachings about women, and I really wanted that to be something better than it was. So I may go ahead and do something in the future where I compile all that information and make a good video out of it for you ladies. But I hope you all got something out of that last week too. I think the discussion was great last week. Um, but yeah, so well, thank you guys so much. I think we will close it up for today. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for all the comments and all the support you're giving here in the chat. I really appreciate that. And I also appreciate so many of you have joined today. Some of you I haven't seen in a while, so thank you so much. Really encouraging to see that and be able to talk with you guys. So you guys are awesome. And thank you so much for your time. God bless you. Have a great day and great week. And I will see you soon. Thank you so much, guys. Bye bye.